If I were asked to write a story about an artist and I were asked to make it interesting, like really interesting, first of all, they would lead a life of adventure. I'd probably have them sail the open sea and go from port to port with their sketchbook in hand, camera around their neck. They'd meet strangers who become friends. They'd go to places that you've never heard of before. They'd rub shoulders with, I don't know, kings and queens, presidents. Their patrons would collect them in museums and galleries. But most of all, they would lead a unique and distinct life where they see the world through their own lens and they create artwork that's never been seen before to tell stories that are compelling and full of life and adventure. I sat down with Benjamin Sack today at Virginia Commonwealth University, and his story reads just like that, but it's not fiction. You see, Ben has figured out a way to take his beautiful drawings, his artwork, his love of adventure and travel, and his capacity as a teacher to fold them all into one. Ben has worked as an artist in residence aboard cruise ships, where he's got a private cabin. He creates maps and drawings of the places they visit. He meets the patrons on the ship, they collect his work, and he repeats again and again. Ben has circumnavigated the world no less than 4 times, although his world travels has taken him farther many more times than that. Ben was good enough to come into my class today at VCU from his residency in Amherst, Virginia, to share his optimism, his hope, his insight on how to lead a life of creative distinction. And I really found it fascinating. The coolest part of all of this is that I already know Ben. Ben was my student years ago as an undergrad. And I've got to watch this life unfold on Instagram. And I just really wanted to sit down with him to figure out, how have you done this? How'd you put these pieces together? I found the conversation really fascinating, and I hope that you do too. Here's Benjamin Sack.
First of all, thank you for being here.
My pleasure.
And how long has it been since you've been in Richmond?
600 years.
600 years. 600 years.
It's
Which I taught you, so I'm older than that. So,
perfectly ancient over there.
well, Ben has kind of come in today from is it Chantilly, Virginia?
Oh, I'm actually presently in an artist residency in Amherst,
Yeah.
just outside of Lynchburg. So it was a beautiful drive to get here this morning. Are you guys mostly from Virginia, or most anyone further flung, as it were? A couple of you guys. Cool. Yeah, it's a beautiful drive.
Well, thank you for being here today. I know it wasn't easy, and I want to begin all of these talks, hopefully not with so much technical awkwardness on my part, but with a very poignant question, and knowing a little bit about your background, your history. How did you make your first dollar as an artist?
You know, it was interesting. I haven't looked at my resume in quite a while, so that was a nice little trip going through some of the bullet points. But of course, it was through the university. You know, there's many opportunities for you to get your work out there, especially through exhibiting at the Anderson Gallery. That was a blast from the past. But also, there's the Society of Illustrators and other organizations that are pretty throughout the year. They'll have a call for entries, and it was through that I applied for their student show in New York, got accepted, incredible honor, received a scholarship from that. And then there was a gentleman, the work was exhibited up there, and there was a gentleman who saw the work and he bought the work. And he was my first collector, and we're still dear friends. He was an architect in Brooklyn, now retired, and he's a real character. So that's kind of the power of the art world. It breaches all other fields, but it brings you into contact with some pretty interesting people as well. So it's an exciting field to be jumping into. Is this class mostly, you wouldn't be freshmen, you'd be sophomores, juniors, and seniors? Kind of a mix? Seniors. Good luck.
All right. So that's the great way to kind of begin, and hopefully you all relate to that. Again, I'm trying to point some directors towards what your challenges are. And let's have the other bookend. How did you make your last dollar, your most recent dollar?
There's two kinds of dollars. There's the business. I should plug my little booklet that I'm selling now. That was my latest dollar, but I won't do that. I was just in Mexico City. I work with a gallery down there, and they facilitated commission work. And they brought me down for about 6 weeks or so, and I was working on this large globe piece, private commission. And so that was the last peso I made.
Were you working on, so you're working on site there?
Mm-hmm.
If you have a chance to check out Ben's social media, the globe is stunning. The context is mind blowing. I mean, that's a beautiful venue. I mean, it is world class.
Yeah, that was right in the gallery. Have any of you probably haven't gone on your own travels too much yet, but have any of you been down to Mexico City at all? Not yet. It's a gem of a place, isn't it? Yeah. Very exciting. Yeah.
So I know that the framing for this is commercial, and we don't like to muddle commercial and art, but this is again the lesson that you are trying to provide for yourselves through your wares and the things that you make. So I want to start this talk with a little bit different than I'm going to do the other ones, because I have the legend that I tell my students of Ben Satt. And it goes something like this. So I knew Ben when he was an undergraduate at VCU. And somewhere along the way, Ben expressed this desire to go work on a lobster ship out in Alaska. And again, he's going to correct the record here. So Ben finds a lobster ship, and he goes, travels, applies for a job, and heads out there, and just wanted some adventure in his life. And adventures he had. And while in port, he met a cruise ship captain. And as cruise ship captain, he and Ben sat down and probably had a scotch, I'm guessing, at a bar. And it seems like an elevated drink to have. And started talking about the travel.
Very tall, actually.
Started talking about their travels, and Ben pitched him on this idea of working as essentially an artist in residence on a cruise ship. And the captain molded over and agreed to it. And then since then, Ben has traveled the world making artwork on a cruise ship, meeting wealthy patrons, creating artwork in his little cabin, and selling to the patrons. So I know I'm off, but that's the story I tell, and I'd love for you to kind of correct that and set it straight if you can.
Well, it wasn't lobster, Sterling. It was the white whale. We went right for him, and he came towards us. No, so I've always kind of have heard the call of the sea, I guess you could say. Maybe you've seen some of my work. It's very based in architecture around the world and cartography. I've always loved maps. And maps are one of the oldest forms of art there is, too. On the cave paintings in Lascaux and whatnot, there's the stars, trying to figure out, where are we? Who are we? Where are we going? And I just always love, those are the big questions, right? We spend our whole lives trying to figure out those questions. And I've always loved art that explores those questions. That's usually maps. And maps themselves have had this incredible evolution. Several projects of mine at VCU were with maps, so it's just always been there in the blood and DNA, and so has the ocean and the sea. And Sterling mentioned after school I was in this other program that he was leading, and that was a wonderful time to kind of incubate, my interests in arts without kind of this classwork, and being surrounded by other practicing artists my age, but also older. I could see, okay, these guys are serious. Like this is, they wake up, they go to work, they enjoy themselves, most importantly, but they're making the work. And that's where most of the issues are solved. Anywho, after that year, it's time to go into the real world. How do we do that? I saw this advertisement sell artwork on cruise ships. And I thought, well, my grandfather was in the Navy. I had an uncle who was a commercial fisherman in Alaska, and I did that summers in high school, fishing salmon, not lobster. Uh, and I thought, wow, grandpa in the Navy, uncle in commercial fisherman, cruise ships. That's the next tier. Um, so I applied for this job, and it was interesting. It's not a long story, but having a background in art definitely helped. Introduced me to the cruise ship world. Never been on a cruise ship before, but it wasn't for me. The people I was working with were amazing. A good small team, but my passion didn't lie there. But I discovered this whole other world, and I learned that this particular company goes on. They have longer voyages, not just a 1 week or 2 week cruise here or there. They do voyages that go around the world or around a continent. And second grader in me that was obsessed with the Titanic was like, "What wonderful! How do I sign up?" And amidst all this, working on the ship as a gallery associate, essentially, I would call home, talk to family, and one day my grandma said, "Ben, it sounds like you don't care much for this job. You like to cruise." Sometimes it takes someone older and far wiser than you to frame things. And I said, "Yes, you're right." So we called into a town called Ketchikan, Alaska. Lovely, charming place. But they have a public library there. I went there. I wrote up a proposal to the company, the main cruise line, uh, creating an artist residency. I invented a job for myself. I thought, how wonderful would it be to travel the world, creating art in the style, in the manner of the cartographers I love, the Dutch, the English, the Flemish as well. Beautiful maps. I thought, this is what I need to do. So I wrote a pitch for them, a drawing class, basic drawing class, because between ports there might be 1 day, 2 days, a week. So they need a little university at sea. So I created this drawing class. I'd teach a art lecture course about art, depending on the region we're in, traveling through. And then I'd also create a large drawing to commemorate the voyage, the kind of the maps of my dreams. And I sent this proposal in. 2 weeks later, I heard back saying, "We are the wrong people. Send it to this person." Send it to that person. Another 2 weeks later, she said, "I love this. We've been looking for something like this for years. Welcome aboard." I couldn't believe it. I won. They said, "Welcome aboard. You only do this for 1 year." And I graduated. Well, I started this in 2014, I think, and have been doing it ever since. And I doing it this way, I'm living in one of my drawings, essentially. Just traveling, seeing the world. And as Sterling mentioned, meeting interesting people too. The places are incredible, but the people are too. It's locals in a certain place, but the people on the ship as well. Most people that can do this kind of voyage, they're retired and relatively successful, so they have some pretty good stories and, life experience. And so it's just been a continuous education. That's way too long of an answer.
Not at all. I thank you for correcting the record, and
Wasn't lobster.
it actually is better than the story I tell, so that's great. Pretty interesting, right? To make his own path to create a job. I would love to hear, first of all, what did that pitch look like? How simple or complex was it?
Simple. I got the email for someone because I had befriended some of the musicians and other artists on board. They were pursuing their passion and trade more so than I was, just selling artwork that is not the best artwork. And so I saw, well, they're doing it, I can do it. And the pitch was simple. I tried to not use so elevated language as the artist statement. But yeah, I explained that I had experience with the ship. Like, I'm one of your people, sort of, but I can bring you this, maximize this experience for their guests and patrons. And yeah, in essence, I pursued my passion, and magically sometimes, most of the time, the doors will open, but you have to be patient. Like I said, I didn't hear immediately back from them. I wrote the proposal. took 2 weeks to hear back, and they said I sent it to the wrong person. But then they gave me the email to the right person, and I did that. Another 2 weeks or so went by, and then it was the most enthusiastic reception. And we had a couple conversations, of course, and showed up one day at the ship and was totally overwhelmed, but you just jump into it. So every day is the first day of college or school, and you just go in optimistically and see what happens.
So do you think that it would have worked out this way had you not already been working for them? Do you think it would have been a harder path for you?
Yes and no. Like that's the gallery. See, the gallery I was working with wasn't the cruise line itself. It was like a contracting agency, kind of like a mall or something. There's space on the ship, and a business will open up shop in the space and pay rent, essentially. And I had befriended a lot of the other crew. I was able to gain insight, essentially, whilst I was in one role, try designing another role for myself. And it was an industry I was totally unfamiliar with. Cruise ships. How many of you have been on a cruise ship before? A few of you. They're amazing and terrible and wondrous, and it's like it's its own city. It's pretty incredible, but you meet not just passengers, but crew from everywhere. And I really love that element too, just how you're brushing shoulders with countless stories, But that was a world I was totally unfamiliar with. And I saw the advertisement, art gallery sales representative, cruise ship. I wasn't prepared for that at all, but I went ahead with it. And there's going to be countless opportunities like that for you guys, especially in this age. People are always, especially with the arts. It's the art world, whether it's the commercial side or gallery side, it's kind of the glue or the bridge between all the different fields, which is an advantage for you guys. I know you're starting out, you're in school mode still, absorbing, hopefully, learning. But you'll realize it is just opportunities. When you open your eyes, people are seeking out artists. We'll fall into the trap of listening to everyone. They'll say, oh, I've been busy and oh, it's tough. And it is, sure. But I find if a little optimism goes a long way, and they'll appear, these opportunities. And you can make them for yourself too. If you're a little wily and again, optimistic, like I've applied to artist residencies, other programs. I've kind of tried to do the same thing with other companies, this artist residency thing. I got the rejection. It's like, oh no. And then you roll with it. The first few times it hurts horrifically and you question everything, very existential. But then you learn, your skin gets a little thicker. And I think someone put it beautifully. It's like every no is a stone to a yes, the pathway to a yes. So yeah, it's a numbers game. It's a game. Treat it like a game and have fun with it. A big puppy.
Speaking of numbers game, how many times, and I know this is a condensed answer because you've been around the world a lot, but how many times have you actually traveled around the world?
Like circled it? Magellan didn't even do it once. I think proper full circumnavigations, 4 or 5. And then recently post-COVID, they've changed some things. So I'm joining a lot of voyages halfway, just as sort of to re-enliven what's going on. And so I've been around South America and Australia and Africa, and coming this October, I'm kind of expanding, like the program I'm doing with this one company, I'm expanding it to another celebrity cruise line. And my inaugural voyage with them is a crossing from Fort Lauderdale to Rome, from Rome to Fort Lauderdale. What is time and space? At the end of October. Yeah.
So you're here for this residency, and then you're kind of really looking at, that's the next big thing for you.
Yeah. That's the other thing too. Sure, you guys, there's challenges, of course, the rise of AI. You probably haven't talked about that at all. uh, there's always challenges with art. It's a new tool, and people get scared. Oh, no jobs for me. But art's been here since the beginning. The caves. In fact, that row back there, I sat right there in my first art history lecture in college learning about the cave painting. So it was kind of full circle, another circumnavigation. But yeah, if you get anything out of me, you can create. You're artists. You create naturally, and you can create jobs for yourself. As long as you're making something, it's a probability thing again. 8 billion, more than 8 billion people on the planet. That means, at the very least, 1 million people like exactly what you like. Probability. So you got that working for you too, if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Every time I meet somebody who's found success, and I certainly would say that you have found your success over and over again, there's a moment in their lives where they have to take a leap of faith. There's something that they have to do where they're frightened, they're scared, and then they get on the other side of that and it's altered their life forever.
Yeah,
Do you have I mean, maybe it was the pitch, but there might be something else that you have in mind where you did something like, this is so outside my comfort zone, but I have to do it. I have to take a risk.
No, it was definitely that pitch, and that just led to many things. Yeah, I mean, there's so many, but when you look back at them, you know, there's just so many lessons that in hindsight they seem so small now. But gosh, I don't know. I think the thing you have to constantly do is chop off your head. Maybe you've heard that before, where you have perceptions and ideas about things, and you're totally wrong. And it's not your fault. So you learn to chop off your head and start from scratch again. You don't have to relearn the whole. Well, actually, it might help to relearn the whole alphabet and dictionary, words for things. I think with opportunities and successes and failures, you're learning. And part of that learning is redefining what you can do. I would say, I think to kind of answer your question is to kind of ask yourself, what can't I do? And your mind might come up with 100 things that you can't do. But if you actually think about it for a second, what can't I do? And really question, why can't I do that? It kind of disappears, or it's an empty argument for why you can't do whatever. Simple fact is you can. And I've been operating that way for the most part. It's like, oh, I want to get this grant. But then this grant looks amazing. I'd love to get this money for this project. And then your mind will start to play the game. You can't. You're not this person or that person. Your work isn't good enough. And it's like, well, why? Most people, I think, we don't know how to question our bad thoughts sometimes. And I know this does not answer your question entirely.
This is beautiful.
But this kind of ties into being back at TAD, seeing other artists, how they work. Jeff Love, he was reading books about athletes, the mindset of athletes. And that, I keep looking back at that as like that. You should start reading those kind of books right now, or interviews. Just don't believe athletes, pinnacle athletes, don't believe in doubt. They don't doubt themselves at all. Can't doesn't exist in their lexicon. And that just pulls them upwards. And it's the same thing with art, because you'll have the dark nights of the soul in the art world for sure, but they go much easier when you're not doubting yourself, where you know how to kind of get out of the little spiral down. It happens. It's natural. It's a human thing. The doubt is a survival mechanism. Like, can I really jump across this whole cliff? Maybe a smaller ravine. So it goes a long way. Doesn't answer your question.
Oh, it's answering a lot of questions. This is what this is supposed to be. So thank you for sharing that. I had a question for you regarding back to the pitch, back to the proposal. Without being tacky about it, this was a paying position that you were afforded to travel?
No, no. Well, the way it worked out, now it is, but the way it worked out was you get this free voyage around the world. You get your room, all the food you can eat, and you teach your class, you present, you provide entertainment or lessons, knowledge to share with the guests. You enrich their experience. And that's what art should be anyways, enriching life, in whatever way, a little inspiration. And so with that, over the years, they said I'd just be doing this program for 1 year. And, I learned on the job. Had I ever taught before? No. Did I say I was a great teacher? Yes. I kind of, you'll teach your friends little things here and there. And I saw some TED Talks that were rather inspiring. And I followed some of that advice, and I learned. I had 10 or 11 people consistently coming to my class on board. They're not paying to be in the class. They could choose to do whatever they want, go to the casino or eat endlessly, go swimming. So that was kind of my competition. And I learned, like, it's a cruise ship. You have to be entertaining. So know the context you're existing in, speak that language, as it were. You don't have to totally wear a mask and change yourself completely, but you kind of bend. You don't break, but you bend with things. You flow. And that first year, I learned a lot. They say the best way to learn something is to teach it, and that's the truth. You're learning all the time. So that was a big moment. This proposal led to a lot of back to your other question, a lot of big leaps of faith. And the great thing is you're in the arts. Supposedly you're here because you love art. And that's a good thing. Joseph Campbell? Have you heard him speak before any of his lectures? Show of hands. Do you know who he is? Hero's Journey, Hero of a Thousand Faces, Star Wars and mythology. I'd start ingesting all of his lectures are on YouTube now for free. They're wonderful. You don't have to read all his books. His books are great, but him actually talking is wonderful too, because he's a brilliant speaker. But his advice is follow your bliss. If you follow what you love to do, that's why you're here, Speaking of faith, and I've always stuck with art. In school, at VCU, surrounded by people who loved art, creating art, but they didn't, they let the real world come in a bit. And so they're not pursuing a career in the arts. Their life isn't focused on the art. It's gone this way or that way. For better, a lot of them have wonderful families now, and that's great. But for me, I kind of stuck the course with art. And I've seen the world, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, to stitch a couple pieces together, this is your tryout for TED. You need to have, he needs to have a TED Talk, right? I think this would be a fascinating, the man who drew the world.
Do you guys know Borges? Jorge Borges, this Argentinian author. He's a little surrealistic, but he writes these stories, and one of the ones that I love is about a map maker commissioned by the king of the land to create a map, and the ratio 1-to-1. This is my dream. So
you're well on your way with it. I was looking at the timeline of your cruise ship. So you said 2014 was your first year.
Yes. Well, that was in the position that I created, but it was 2013 that I was on board. And then 2011, 2012, I graduated in 2011. Dinosaur.
1998.
A millennium ago. That explains the smell. No. Yeah, it was a while ago, but time flies. I forgot what I was gonna say.
Well, I was just going to ask you about your timeline, the time frame of the actual residencies and traveling. Um, I would love to know, and maybe the students would as well, what was life like on the ship, right? So yes, in my mind, you have a cabin. I believe that you had wall space and you were actually doing drawings on some of the walls. I feel like I saw that on
Yeah,
one of the
yeah.
ships at least. Um, and then you would go port to port, but long periods of time, open sea.
hmm
And you're what, daily you're teaching classes?
Every sea day. Yeah. It's a dream job. I so my position, I'm in the gray zone as well. So I have passenger status, but I can also go into the crew areas, and it's like Titanic. We do the Irish jig in the evening. It's wonderful below decks. But um yeah, so I would, whenever we're at sea, that's when I would teach my class. And I love teaching. Teaching, I really do. And I'm not in any formal structure, so I have sorry, total freedom, and I have fun with it. I kind of riff off of the people in the class, and they're all ages. There'll be kids sometimes on these voyages, so 5, 6, 7 year olds, all the way up to 90. So it's like, they're here because they've always told themselves, I can't draw, can't even draw a straight line or a stick figure. So that's where we start, stick figures. Lead that into gesture drawing, and then gestures loose and open, and that's how we should just be as people. And there's lots of lessons you can fit in there on the first day. But and the whole world is the proverbial oyster, but try to absorb and just filter everything through the artist's way of seeing, essentially. But just yeah, every sea day I teach. In the evenings, that's when I have to row. I was the drummer once. That was wonderful. And yeah, another part of it, of course, is the schmoozing. I'm not in sales mode all the time. At the end of the voyage, I have the big unveiling of the drawing I'm working on that commemorates the voyage. After every port we visit, I'll draw a little bit, just like the old map makers used to do. So there's poetry in that. But at the end of the voyage is the big unveil, big stage, very beautiful and fun. Uh, and then I move the drawing to another space, a little more intimate, and that's when the map comes to life. That's when people start poking and not poke at it too much, but those are the maps that I love, the ancient ones that just have places rubbed out entirely because that's home. We were there. Over hundreds of years, people are just rubbing away places, but it's that absence that makes it even more important. Um, so yeah, the part of this is just meeting and talking with people, being invited to dinners. It's a Renaissance city, and this is how my approach to it. There's a couple thousand people on the ship, half of its crew, half of them passengers from all walks of life, living together. It's kind of like school as well. You're there for a semester, and I'm the one artist on board. I'm the court artist to King Neptune. There's a whole King Neptune ceremony, but and I have fun with it this way, and you can extend this to life too. And we all are inventing roles for ourselves. We're all characters, different in the classroom, different, going out, different with family, and you just have fun with it. That's what I try to do. If that answers your question.
No, it's great. And so you would teach your classes, then you'd go to port,
hmm
and everyone's kind of off doing their thing,
hmm
and you've got free reign. You're in a foreign place, and you just get to explore.
Yes. You adventurize. You bring your sketchbook out with you because you give yourself homework. And I love sketching and drawing. And just to kind of walk in the footsteps of artists in the past who did it. Surely you're all fans of Sargent, right? You know John Singer Sargent, right? Put your hands up if you know John Singer Sargent. Can I get a round of applause for John Singer Sargent? There you go. Yeah, good. Infinite lessons there. His sketchbooks are wonderful, and his watercolor studies just breathe them on the paper. So he's always been an inspiration for me to just go out into a place. And that's the power of art right there. You'll go out, your little sketchbook, painty, painty, drawy, drawy. And then in moments, in a new land, a new place, you'll have a whole crowd around you. The village comes to you, and then you're chatting with the. Well, here's a story. We were in the Kingdom of Tonga. Does anyone know where that is? Anyone from Tonga in here? One day I'll get someone from Tonga. South Pacific Island. Actually, a couple of years ago, there was a massive underwater volcano that blew up just nearby the main island of the chain, but everyone's fine. No one died. And so I just went out to no expectations in this place. Never really knew about it before. New exotic place. Not much there, to be honest, but lovely place in the South Pacific. There was a lagoon nearby I heard about, so I went to the lagoon, had my little camera, sketchbook, just kind of in the moment, very zen. And this kid comes out of nowhere, 16-year-old. He's like, hey, what's up? What's going on? Who are you? He's asking all these questions. I'm wearing a silly hat. You know I wear silly hats. And I'm drawing, and he sees my camera. He's like, can I see your camera? He starts playing with my camera. And we're chatting. It's this nice little interaction. Brave kid coming up to a total stranger. And then he says, would you like to come have lunch with my family? And I thought, what? That'd be amazing. But then in my head, I was like, Ben, this is the Kingdom of Tonga. Cannibalism was only recently unlearned. But that was a leap of faith. Went to his home, and his auntie was like, who the hell are you? No, she's like, oh, he brought another one. They put me in the pot, and I started to boil. And no, it was wonderful. It wasn't his auntie who met me first. It was his sister who was playing the ukulele. So we're going to this beautiful house, humble but beautiful, just decadent, exotic foliage everywhere. This young girl comes out from behind the bush on the ukulele, and it's just a dream. And start talking with her. Auntie and uncle come out, more cousins. Who's this new person? And I said, lunch is almost done. They're cooking it in banana leaves, in the earth, the fire and everything. Lunch is served. It's delicious. We're all talking. And then to return the favor of this incredible generosity, I do a portrait, a quick sketch of the kid's name was Dominic. And they just went crazy. They're like, what? And then, he accepted the gift. And then I was summoned. I was taken to this other house where the patriarch of the family was kind of in resting, older guy. And looking around the room, it's pictures of him in, British military fatigues. He fought in World War II, this guy, against the Japanese, South Pacific. And the whole family's filing in. He's kind of laying on a couch. It's like out of, I don't know, any South Pacific adventure novel. And he just starts kind of being very philosophical, talking about inviting people into homes and just sharing each other's human experience and stories. And it was just very kumbaya, beautiful. And then they presented me with their own artwork, this massive, for lack of a better word, it's like a tarp is designed in all their different patterns that's very, popular with their traditional folk art. And they give this to me, and they outdid me. So I have to return and outdo them. But that's the power of art right there, gang. Like, just go out and draw, pursuing what you love. Things will come to you. This little guy came up to me, and then it escalated, and we're family now. I have family in Tonga. It's insane. So yeah, that's the power of art. It's good stuff. You're tapping into good stuff.
Well, we've all heard the adage that a picture speaks, louder than words, and it's
10 million words.
Yeah, and it's
Don't trust words, always pictures.
It's so true that images cut across culture and language and all sorts of different barriers. So I love hearing that story. I wonder, do you have a it's got to be so hard to choose, but do you have a favorite place? Do you have a place like if you could go back to and visit without hesitation?
Yeah, Mars was wonderful. The maiden voyage was just last week. This is the tough question. Ben, you've been so many places. What's your favorite place? And when I first started doing all this travel, it was exciting. The places. Whoa, wow, whoa. And that never gets boring. It's a choice. A lot of people will let that become boring. They say, "Oh, I've been here," or "I'm a pro at traveling." And that little bit of jadedness comes in. It happens in every field, not just traveling, but when we rest on our laurels or something, we kind of get that timbre. Um, but for me, what it became, I started traveling, or really in any situation, because of all this traveling, a love for people just blossomed. I was very much an introvert, still am in many ways. I don't care for labels, but if I had to pick one, that's one. But the traveling does open you up, and for me, it has become about the people. I know it's kind of a cliche, but that little moment I had with Dominic on Tonga, I had expected nothing from Tonga. It was not China and the Great Wall, or Sydney and the Opera House, or Petra and Jordan, but it was one of the greatest experiences of my life, just because of that human spark and connection. And communication arts, ooh, right? That's the point. I think this can tie back into the way the world's kind of shifting. It has been very money, and work, busy. But I know the big shift in the travel industry is how they're really selling experiences now, not just going to a place, but what you can do in the place. And in my own kind of philosophy and seeing and approaching the world is, again, labels are the worst, but we're brought up and just kind of conditioned with the word consumer constantly. Consumers agree with this. You're a consumer. And no, the word I choose is citizen, and that means you bring some responsibility in life. It's a life in action in what you do. And, it's a much more human kind of way and filter to see the world, as opposed to consumer. How can I use you to get what I want? No, rather, how can we work together to enjoy what's going on, I don't know if that answers your question either.
It does. And it's interesting just to kind of riff off of it. My question was,
Favorite place?
It's a bit naive.
Florence.
There you go. You all should go to Florence with Professor Alcorn, right? But the favorite place, and you answered with, I had this experience with people, and
which can be anywhere,
right? And you'll never repeat it. That would be that one moment. I mean, you couldn't go back and have that first new experience with Dominic and his family. You'd be received well. It'd be a different experience, but that experience, maybe the answer is my favorite places where I can go and have new experiences like that, right? And I went to, I was running a workshop down in Bogota, Colombia, and I had a very different experience, but memorable experience nonetheless, where I was brought into a family. They invited me to have dinner. I was off the grid. It was off the main stage and everything else. And
you were kidnapped.
I was kidnapped. And no, that experience was the top of my memories of things that I've had happen in my life. And you can't repeat it, but what an amazing thing to put yourself in a situation where things like that can happen.
And you didn't know it was going to happen, right?
And you can't predict it. You can't script it.
You're very human all of a sudden, right?
And it's off the beaten path. It's not the touristy things. It's the personal things. I want to relate that back to what you were talking about with, you're on these cruise ships and there's schmoozing, but surely many relationships that you've made.
Or two mutinies from time to time.
And it's one of those things where I want all of you to remember that business is a connection between people, right? And when you start to build these relationships over a period of time, so your cruise is 4 months, 6 months, what?
Yeah, they range. I'm starting to branch out to other lines as well. So 2 weeks, a month, 2 months, 5 months, it ranges. But the connection, I think when Sterling told me, there's this project to make your first dollar, that's exciting. It's wonderful. Um, it's an exchange and you're putting yourself out there. Um, and but it's too soon. I haven't gotten my diploma yet. The person with the hat hasn't given me the official da-da-da. No, Michelangelo didn't wait for a diploma. Raphael didn't. All the greats in anything never waited. They just went and learned. But what they also had was, reading their biographies. Are you reading biographies? You learn like, too severe. I always use the Ninja Turtles. Raphael, Michelangelo, the four guys, not the actual turtles, but the Renaissance guys, because they're so different, each one of them, but they all reach the pinnacle. And that's why they're bastions and our role models, can be. Michelangelo was a curmudgeon. That's the myth of him. Raphael, however, was the exemplar of court etiquette. The whole Balthasar Castiglione wrote the whole courtesans, how to be a proper this or that, based off of Raphael. Uh, so this figures into the whole relationship thing. It's not, you can make it a game and there'll be people manipulating other people. This is human history. But with the art, if someone's coming up to you to buy your art, it's because there's a connection there. Maybe, hopefully, maybe more profound than words can describe. The power of art is it reflects the best or an unknown part of you back at you. Those are the masterpieces we love, and they are showing us ourselves, but at a part we didn't know, new frequency kind of being broadcast. And it's that, it's like when you can make someone laugh in the first few minutes of meeting them, there's a friendship that starts to develop or a warmth. It's the same thing with art. When someone's coming up to you and they're expressing their interest in your art, there's something on a lower level that's working. And that can bridge into a beautiful friendship. This has been my approach, and I'm circling this back to the dollar. The money is important. You got to make a living, and what a privilege and joy it'll be to make money from what you love to do. That's how it should be. Not everyone can do it. Most people think they can't do it, but you can. But at the same time, and this was a lesson I got on the ship, just talking to other passengers who were teachers, especially in business. The other thing that you're going out into the world, you're going out in the world to make some money and meet people and share your art, but you're also going out into the world with your good name. You're going out as you, and that's something you want to protect. Not to like put yourself in armor, but kind of like Raphael, how he was described as the pinnacle courtier. I used to get courtier and courtesan mixed up.
That's a big mix
Don't
up.
do the
Yeah.
courtesan route unless that's fine. That's fine. I'm not encouraging it, but it's fine. But it's your good name is very important too. So yeah, make the money. Go make the money. But at the same time, your good name, the reputation you'll make from that first dollar will be golden. It's your choice. And you'll meet people who are a little shady or have done this or that. And it's like, kind of steer away from them, learn their lessons, steer away. But this is just, it was just such a good thing to hear from someone else, an older person. It's your good name. That's $1 billion right now. If you have a good reputation, you don't have to be, Madonna or, pick any ultimate pop star. You don't need to have that success immediately. But if your name is golden, then that has a power in its own right. So that's an important thing to just keep in mind. How am I presenting myself to this client? Is it a pleasure for them to work with me, to communicate with me? It doesn't have to be, I say pleasure, like with emails, little things like this. people are so used to getting the copy paste. Hello, I hope this email finds you well. And at the end, my best regards. It's like, okay, this is just copy paste. If you can add a little flourish of yourself in there some way, uh, that's gold. Yeah. Bit of a tangent, but
Well, I think about our email correspondence, actually Instagram and email, and
started out with falcons and owls.
and when you receive correspondence from people, or communicate with people, and they treat you with respect, you mirror it. Like, this is a thing that builds,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
I've got a good friend. He's going to be a speaker coming through Zoom, and he writes me the most beautiful emails. And I always take a little while to get back to him, because I sit down and I have to think about what I say back to him. So it comes back to how you present yourself and your character and your name, all things that are true. I want to ask you now, pivot a little bit. I'm not sure how are we doing on time, everybody? We 11:15. Great, thank you. We need to open up soon to questions, but I would love to know, what are you working on right now? If you could tell people this thing that you're excited on, what are you doing? You've got your book
Oh, yeah.
with you, and you've got some original work as well.
Yeah, if you guys.
If there's a moment to share that afterwards, for folks to see it, I highly recommend that you see things in person. These are artifacts, and from the beginning, I mean, I feel like you were working with microns, but also ballpoint pens.
Oh, never micron.
No, Pigma,
Stedler.
Okay,
Pinnacle of German engineering.
so it's amazing to see that you've traveled the world with your mind, with your character, but on the talent of a pen.
Wow. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, let's open up the floor here, and if you would, we can share that book. I want you to kind of show, because you've just come out with this recently, right?
Yeah, it's a little booklet. People are always asking, Ben, don't you have a book? And I say I should get a book. So I'm working on one, but it's become a passionate project. So it's not something I'm trying to rush through, and it'll be done when it's done. But in the meanwhile, I made a little booklet, and that's the story. It's just, you'll see these at art galleries. They'll have a little booklet of the artist's work, not necessarily a full monogram. But yeah, this is just, you'll learn about the power. You guys grew up totally digital, right? You had a Facebook account when you were 1 year old, maybe, right? So you're in it. You know the power of the internet. I discovered it a little after school, a little after TAD, actually. And right before going with the cruise ship, I kind of plopped myself down and committed. There was the big drawing I did at TAD, but then that led to another one where I kind of fine-tuned my craft. And I think it's on the website. There's a video. I did a time lapse with it, set it to one of the pieces of music that I absolutely love and adore, choreographed it, and then I posted it on YouTube, and it got 10 views. That was fine. I didn't care. But then when I was at sea, towards the end of my first big voyage as artist in residence, it blew up out of nowhere. And that's when galleries started contacting me, patrons and collectors that I'm still doing stuff with now. And so when I say follow your bliss, that's what quoting Joseph Campbell, that's what I've been doing, and it's gone pretty well. There's ups and downs, but the trend is this, Anyone invested in stocks?
I was saying, it's our market reference there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you all want to see the book and the artwork, we'll have just a few minutes afterwards. But I want to open up the floor to you all. What an amazing story, experience. I'm envious in the most flattering kind of ways. It's like, I've got a family of 4. That's the hard sell, right?
Choose one.
And, yeah, and a cat. So
choose the cat.
Probably won't be accepted. But questions from you all? Anything that you have that you'd like to ask Ben while he's here?
That's a great question. That was one of the big fears. Like, what am I going to do? And with communication arts, I think it was still trying to figure out what it wanted to be in a way when I was matriculating through. But there was you probably still have the more traditional drawing. That's wonderful. That's gold. Um, I've always, you heard me talk way too much about art history, right? So I've always kind of idolized those guys and gals. And that was the path that I wanted to take. And, but with the school, yeah, it was this like, well, there's commercial illustration, medical illustration, and I hate computers. So my options were very small. And I grew up, as like most of you, probably as the artist in the classroom. First grade, hey, Cindy, you should be an artist. Second grade, Mike, you should be an artist. I kept hearing that through going through elementary, middle, and high school. So I just was conditioned, Ben, you're great at drawing. You should be an artist. I became an artist. It's the only option, essentially. But it just, oh gosh, that's a whole tangent. Do you guys have 10 more hours? Did I answer your question anyway? Sort of, not really. How do you choose? That was the question, right? How do you choose? Well, you don't have to. You don't have to choose. Because when I first started out, I was doing some illustration for architects, and actually, Mr. McGank, Bob McGank, Robert McGank, he, you're part of a network, a community of people that, if you're doing good work and your name is gold, people will want to share you with other people. People love telling stories about this amazing time, this amazing person. They'll want to share you. So if you're worth sharing, you will be shared, so to speak. Though the internet proves that terribly wrong. All the BS that's out there. I say BS because those are my initials, so it's okay. But that's the cool thing about this is okay. That kind of question is okay, but this is the great thing about the art world is you don't have to choose. It's not an I don't know and I can't. It's I can do this, this, and this. And a lot of artists do that. They'll juggle photography with graphic design, a little pet project here or there. I mean, it's not necessarily it's not a scramble. I mean, if you compare yourself to your friend that's studying at the medical school and they're going to be a doctor. Half my friends are doctors, by the way, because of the medical school. You get to wear as many hats as you want, which ends up being a lot of fun. Will be a challenge because you're not going into an infrastructure already established. Like I'm an accountant and I'm going to this firm, and that's the hierarchy. I'll march up. In the arts, it's a little more fluid, but if you're creating, the work you're making will provide some answers to you as well. But you can wear many hats in the art world. Graphic design, photography, work on your own, a personal project. Make sure, no rules, but if you're able to pour your passion into something, again, probability, at least 1 million people will love it. They just have to see it. That's part of the game, figuring out how to get those 1 million eyes on it. But I guarantee you, if you are in love with this thing you're doing, it will find a way. There's a little time delay sometimes not. But patience and perseverance, passion, all the P words. Hold to those. Those are your stars.
And remember that when you put your work out there, it starts to speak for you. And the kind of work that you get is the kind of work that you show. So while you're deciding what to make, that's a big part of it. You have to decide the things that you want to make. So you have to have opinions, right? And you also have to remember that things are for now, not forever. And one of the things they actually say about illustrators is that we know a little about a lot because you get so much exposure to so many different types of stories. And we can have conversations in here about choosing a single path and then going broad. You can go broad and then become singular. There's so many different ways, but really drilling down again, go where people gather,
Mm.
geek out on things, like really be passionate about
Yes.
something.
That passion. Look at people's eyes when you're talking to them or when they're talking to you. And when you see the stars in their eyes, that's it. Keep that going in any conversation, but especially when it pertains to your art or business or,
And that's what your mentors, your professors, the folks who are experienced, that's why you have teachers, is to say, here's some options you didn't think about. I see what you're passionate about. Have you thought about this? I'm going through it with my 16-year-old daughter right now. What do you want to do for, college? Or
how will you make bread?
yeah, what's next for you? So it's not that dissimilar from where all of you are. And even when you figure it out, it will change. The world will change, and you'll have to pivot and be creative as business people, and you'll change again. So we're in a hustle. You are always chasing something, and the opportunities will change. Your success begets success, and new opportunities will chase you.
Yeah, it's the truth. And it's written there in all of art history as well. Like if we just focus on the artists, they were all hustling all the time. Art history makes it look very nice when they're paintings just on a museum wall and how easy that must have been. No, there was many dark nights of the soul. But that's part of living, adjusting, learning, and cutting your head off multiple times. So, yeah.
Other questions? In the back here.
Well, what is a circle? Right? It's when you have a really tiny circle, it's a point. When you zoom out, it's a big circle thing. It's one of the oldest, most classic symbols there is, It's a literal journey, full circle, the whole world. See, we have another 10 hours, gang. Don't have this. This is where I'll geek out, I'm gonna look for your eyes if you have the stars. But the circle, it's a profound symbol as well. Like, so, as you can tell, I love art history and just kind of there's a lot of self-reference in my work as well to art and history. Recursiveness, kind of that spiral downwards or outwards. And so with the circle, it's not just a static shape. It's movement. It's if you center it on the page, yeah, it looks a little still. But if you follow that outline, that's life, The Lion King, right?
So it has a metaphorical meaning. It's a symbolic meaning for you.
Layers and layers, gang. It's all about layers.
And it's different than the expected.
Oh, no.
Great question. Another question here?
Bounce the bills. Yeah, no, of course. That I mentioned, like, people became familiar with the kind of work that I did, so I played to that strength. I did like I mentioned, a lot of work for architects and realtors. There's people love something made by hand, and especially architects and realtors. Architects, especially, to help them with pitches. Every architecture firm is using the same architectural software. That's why all the buildings look the same. But when they have something hand-drawn to present to a client, it translates differently than just the regular printed out image. There was that. In the arts, there's also grants. If you want to pursue a project, you just go for it. Sure, you're competing with 100 other people, but it's a learning process. I learned from all the little failures that I had. And that's what intimidates us, of course. I have a huge ego. I graduated top of my class, and now I'm in the real world. And you chop that head off. Do any of you have a samurai sword? Those are the best. Don't use an axe. Not the best. Yeah.
If I can add to that too, is you won't in the beginning. You won't support yourself with your work unless you're very, very fortunate, and you'll be working odd jobs, and that's kind of how it goes. It's employee versus freelancer, and those things start to build up, and you're doing them at the at the nth hour, and burning the midnight oil. Then you go to work, and so many people I know just started doing regular jobs, and then their value as an artist started to rise, and then it's supplemented and eventually supplanted if you're successful. So keep your expenses super low, and your threshold to become a professional artist is much easier, right? So
Yes, that is important. Like, survey the land. Like, I was never a coffee drinker, so I just saved myself $50,000 right there. uh, yeah, you're absolutely right. I had times where I stayed at home with my parents, just like everyone will inevitably, unless they're pretty wealthy in the beginning, or you're in the arts, so it can happen. Just the immediate rise, that's there. There's also I don't know quite what I want to do, and you're not alone. Uh, this is great right now. There's a network of people right here. Like, I'm sure you hammer this point all the time. Just, this is such a great resource, because you're going to go all the way over there. You're going to go all the way over there. 5 years from now, you're going to have this opportunity that this person will be able to plug into and just make it soar. Yeah. So again, your good name. If people remember you as someone really great to work with and created something just marvelous and brilliant, or just, perfectly satisfactory, that's working for you too while you're sleeping. Again, compounding interest. So yeah. Yeah.
let's take one more. Mel, you got a question up here?
What made me smile?
She said, "How are you doing?"
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. Yeah, I'm retranslating.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I'm doing great. Like I mentioned, I drove in from just outside of Lynchburg in Amherst. That's where I'm in an artist residency there between big travels. I haven't picked where I wanted to live yet, so I'm still in travel mode. Um, there's, the world's pretty big. You don't know it yet. It's huge, and people want you, which is amazing. You don't know that yet, which ties me into a great story. I'm doing great though, thank you. And yourself? Doing pretty good. Thank you very much. Well, you're right in the second row. That's very flattering for me. Thank you. Um, there's a story that I cling to, and it kind of it's all stories sell the point, right? One of my favorite people in the world is Benjamin Zander. He's a conductor for symphony orchestras. He's older now, but he's also very enthusiastic about just being optimistic, possibility, the art of possibility. And he has a story. Just to keep it simple, there's two salesmen from England going to South Africa. And they're working for a shoe company. And the first salesman arrives in South Africa, and he reports back, terrible news. He's working for a shoe company, and no one in South Africa wears shoes. What are you going to do? So he goes back. And then the second salesman comes down to South Africa. And then he arrives and sees, and then he reports back and he says, wonderful news. No one wears shoes. So it's an opportunity to have everyone wear shoes. So the key thing of my work and life, believe it or not, is perspective. To get back to the circle question, that little dot, when you squeeze the circle, condense it all the way down, that's a point of perspective, and you get to choose how to approach it. Most people choose one perspective for their whole life. Yeah, that's fine. Focus and attention are superpowers. What you put your attention on, that's your whole world for that moment. which is why doom scrolling is terrible. But yeah, pay attention to what you're focusing on, I'd say. What are you putting most of your attention on? And when you put more of your attention on your art or pursuing this dollar, you're going to see that this dollar is going to arrive very quickly and with many zeros at the end of it if you're really putting your attention on that. Not obsessing over it, like, oh, I need to make $1, but like, I'm making $1, you know?
Well, I want to,
Please.
Chance, go ahead.
Ooh. I'd say 50-50. Yeah, so for me, I'm lucky. Geraldine, my first gallery exhibition was here in Richmond, Ghost Print Gallery. It's no longer here, but I think Geraldine's still doing some art.
Yeah, I have some exchange with her. She's wonderful.
She's amazing. Richmond's wonderful. Like, I just start reaching out as soon as you can. But I had my first, through you guys, my first exhibition in Richmond, and I had some sales, which was wonderful. That's a great feeling. Not everything sold, poor me, but it was exciting. And then that just kept carrying on. Geraldine, she held on to one of the big drawings that I created for this exhibition. And Christopher Paolini? He's the guy that wrote the Aragon, but he bought it. So, that's the amazing thing about the art world too, is everyone's in it. I've met kings, presidents, billionaires, and the humblest people, everyone in between. And we like your art, Ben. It's wonderful. So you just got to create and it will land. I'm lucky that 1 million people that might resonate with my art, some of them are here and there, you just have to create. This is what Chuck Close always said. Chuck Close, right? Look his work up. He said, all the answers are in the work. Just create. Just create. Gesundheit. And yeah, I'm an optimist, so it'll work out. It'll work out. But, so I work with galleries, 2 galleries, one in Miami and one in Mexico City. And I've worked with others in the past, and that's 50%. The other is the internet, just putting my work out there. I'm more passive than a lot of people, but I'll get a message. The frequency changes, and the art world's reeling at the moment. That whole gallery universe is kind of going through some fits. That's a whole other discussion. But yeah, I'd say 50-50.
Well, I want to thank you for being here today and invite the students to kind of come up and see some of your drawings. Before we break into chaos here in just a moment, I've got something I want to share first once we stepped up on the stage. But tremendously inspiring. One of the great privileges I have as a professor, and I've been doing this a long time.
He's ancient.
Is that I get to watch people grow up, and I get to see people pursue their dreams and make their own path. And I've wanted to have this conversation for a long time, and we're going to continue afterwards. But you've been an inspiration to me, and certainly I share that with the students. And it's a tremendous honor to have you here today.
Thank you.
So thank you for your time.
Listen to him. Listen to him. Thank you, guys.